Hello and welcome to Around the Ice on Fantasy and Frames, our inaugural show here on the Fantasy and Frames Network. We're going to get things started. NHL hockey right around the corner. We're going to do a mock draft, get you guys set up for everything this hockey season. Stick with us. Welcome in, Toast and Aaron. Thanks for being here with me tonight, guys. Pumped to be on the Fantasy and Frames Network. Great guys. Usually do football. That's their main source, but kind of breaking out, doing a little WWE wrestling, adding hockey this season. So we're going to be along with the guys here on Fantasy and Frames. So if you have not checked them out, go like and subscribe at Fantasy and Frames. You can still find all our stuff on the Stew with JT Brew. That will be there as well. You can always download the podcast as there, but please go to Fantasy and Frames, check them out. We'll be here every Tuesday night for the most part, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central is when you'll be able to check us out. And then Fantasy and Frames Wednesdays, if you're a fantasy football player, all night long, 3-4 hour segments all in a row. You finish up the night with me and Jorge on Shoot the Gap talking IDP football on Wednesday nights, but it's good stuff throughout the year. If you're into college football, great show. One Foot Down podcast on Monday nights. So check that out. And then following up us here on Around the Ice, you'll see me and Ben Dyer on the Stew with JT Brew. We'll have our college football betting show every Tuesday night following the hockey show, where we go over all our favorite bets for the week, spreads, games we like, we don't like, any kind of player props, all that good stuff to get you set up for a whole week of betting action. So make sure to lock in here with Fantasy and Frames for the rest of the season. Toast, start with you, man. How's the summer been? Pumped to be talking hockey once again.
I'm glad the summer's over, JT. So I equate tonight, our inaugural opening night of fantasy hockey podcasting, really as a correlation, really to, let's say, Thanksgiving. All right. So, and then after Thanksgiving, we got the holidays coming up, and Christmas Eve really is your draft, right? You're going to be able to draft and actually get all your players, and whether it be dynasty, whether it actually be redraft, and then Christmas morning is opening night, man. So I can't wait. This year is going to be very familiar format, but actually Fantasy and Frames. I'm super excited to actually be part of the Fantasy Frames family. And JT, when you described it to me about actually joining, that's exactly what you said. You they're kind of like a close knit family, and I'm like, hey, that sounds awesome. Let's be a part of it. And so this year, our format for our shows is going to be, we're going to talk about fantasy hockey trends. We're going to talk about hockey news. And we're also going to sprinkle in some gambling in there because, again, we cannot stop gambling. We're a couple of degenerates, so we're going to throw that in there.
Yeah, mix of stuff. We've got all kinds of shows we're going to break down as we go through here. Just a list of shows we're going to do to lead off the season. Aaron, I haven't got to see you all summer. I haven't talked to you in a while. How have things been with you, man?
Oh, great to be back at it. Hockey, just kind of one of those things. I like that. How you kind of use the holiday season there for the hockey season. I couldn't agree more. But yeah, like the NHL entry draft is kind of it's bittersweet. It's fun to watch. It was out in Vegas this year. Deep draft, a lot of talent in the draft, and then it's just like you kind of wait, then free agent happens, and then it's sit and wait. So good to see the teams back at it. Glad to be back at it, and glad to with Fantasy and Frames. I plan here. So here's my real plan. I'm going to listen to the pod on the college football, get a little bank, and then with that bank that I make, I'm going to fund all of my hockey fantasy leagues. So it's just kind of let's start the cash flow going. Can't wait. So glad to be back.
That sounds like a good plan. Let's get that thing going. I like where your head's at. I love it. We're going to be all over the bets and the Toast takes and the JT parlays. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, make sure you head over there, or the X, at Toast Clark, at JT Orange, and at Titch4141. You can follow all of us if you're a gambler, we will post all that stuff on there. So a lot of our takes outside of the show, we will post things daily on there as well. So make sure to check us out and do that. Toast, why don't you give us a little rundown of what people are going to see this upcoming season on season 2 of Around the Ice and our first season here on Fantasy and Frames?
Yeah, so we got our shows really planned out all the way until opening night, and then really our format once opening night is really once we start having hockey games on, is to really talk about the hockey games in progress and really kind of go around the ice, if you will, and talk about different trends, whether it be fantasy hockey, whether it actually be hockey in general, gambling as well, and also kind of talk about those games that are live. So the preseason, I call it here. There's a lot more planning, and we're happy to actually bring it to our listeners. But we're going to have 3 shows in August. Again, every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Central. 3 shows in August, counting tonight. We'll do a points league mock draft recap tonight. And then the next 2 shows, we're going to do tiering. We're going to do forward tiers. So left wing, center, right wing. And then we'll bunch in on a 27th of August, defenseman and goalie tiers together. Then we got 4 shows in September. We're going to do Atlantic, Metro, Central, and Pacific Division previews and 4 consecutive weeks. And then, man, I tell you what, the best show of the year for me will end up being our home league draft recap. We have a Bangers League. We're going to do a new Dynasty League this year. We're starting from scratch. It's year 9 of our league. October 1st, that will be. And then leading us up to Tuesday, October 8th, NHL opening night live show. And I believe the Hawks are going to go out and play in Utah. And I think the Blues are going to play around 3:30 that afternoon as well. I think there's 3 games. So that's where we'll kind of kick off our season, and can't wait.
Yeah, Tosin, we got one other show. We haven't quite squeezed it in. We're going to figure out where we're going to do it, but we're going to do our preseason hockey betting preview where we say, hey, who are the long shots that we like? We were kind of on it last year. We had some guys that finished in the top 3 that were right there. Teams we like to win it all. All those types of things. We're going to jump in. What do we love? What do we not love? Who do we like to win the points? Who do we like to win the heart? We'll kind of give you a breakdown of all of that as we get going there. And obviously, there's some favorites you want to take, but we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss some of the favorites, but we're going to discuss, if you're a long shot better like us, where you want to take some of those nice odds, we're going to show you how to do that. And some guys that, maybe we want to throw in there a little bit of a crazy bet here and there. We do like to take the parlays. That is my favorite is the JT parlay play of the day. There's always a crazy one, but we'll give you some of those looks. And then we'll kind of update you throughout the year. So that's something we like to do. We like to about halfway through the season, kind of relook at those bets. Hey, who are we looking good on? Who do we maybe want to put a different bet on to kind of even that out? And we'll kind of keep you up to date as we keep going. And like I said, we'll do some betting on the show live, but then also we will put out some stuff daily. If there's some bets, some odds we like, some things that we think you should hammer for a couple weeks, we will jump in and do that. So all that stuff and more coming this season. So pumped to get everything back together. That is for sure. What do you guys think? You guys ready to do a little mocking here, a little draft mock? We'll get in here and kind of talk about where some of these guys are going, where you can kind of look at as we're coming up in the season. Maybe you've got a league that's getting ready to start or draft here in the next couple weeks to a month. Like I said, we're going to do a redraft mock tonight, and then we're going to kind of get into like our home league dynasty draft. Maybe who do we need to go through there? Who are we liking in that type of format? So we're going to do a little bit of all that. So let's get into this one here. We got a head-to-head points league, 12 teams, 19 players, 14 starters, 5 bench is kind of how this one is set up. Starters, 2 centers, 2 left wing, 2 right wing, 4 defensemen, 2 skaters, so kind of like your flex play, and then 2 goalies. Point system here, 3 points per goal, 2 points per assist, 1 for a shorthanded goal, 1 point for a power play point. Shorthanded points are also a point. Shots on goal, 0.2. Hits, 0.2. Blocks, 0.25. Goals allowed for a goalie -1. Saves are 0.2. Shutouts are 3 points, and a win for the goalie 4. We've gotten into the not doing negative points for the goalie losses as we've seen those really adjust things and get people not wanting to play goalies at the end of the week. So we've kind of shooed the losses. We want to give you the bonus if you win or you get a shutout. But if you lose and you get 40 saves and you lose 2-1, that's a good night at the office. We don't want to hammer you for that. So that's a little bit adjustment in our league compared to some other leagues. So you want to check that out. If you're in a league that's like 5 points for a win or -5 for a loss, that's something you definitely want to take in consideration when doing some of these drafts. So, fellas, let me pull up our draft board here and take a little look from what we had from our mock.
Yeah, and why we're having you do that, JT. I will say we talked about it's pretty important to do as many mock drafts as you possibly can. I think I'm mock drafting with you and Aaron right now, and we'll kind of go over a little bit of that here at the end of the episode. But why is it important to mock? I think Aaron sent me a text a couple of days ago and said, "Why in the hell did I actually just draft that guy?" I think it was Jordan Kyrou. I think, man, what did you say? Why did I draft that pud?
Yeah.
I said, hey, that's why we mock draft, man. So you're mock drafting to kind of get all that out of your system, to kind of make those mistakes, to kind of see what the trends are and stuff. And whether it be hockey, whether it be fantasy football, it's no different at all. But get in as many mock drafts as you possibly can. And Aaron, I don't know if you agree, but I use you there as a guinea pig. But man, it's helpful.
Couldn't agree more. I really. And I think when we started our conversation, like, dude, the next 12 guys are all better than the Kyrou pick. And it just get it out of the system. 3-4 mocks. Yeah, now I got to feel for it by that last, kind of like spring training. Nobody comes out throwing the curveball. Everybody's throwing a fastball. Just give me a minute. I'll get the breaking stuff here at the end of spring training. So yeah, I draft mocks are critical, I think, to any fantasy forum.
Yeah, and I think it's always kind of interesting to see kind of where guys are going. ADP, obviously, it matters on your league where you draft. Who are homers? Who are going to maybe overdraft a guy? What guys are maybe going to fall because you don't have anybody that's a big fan of that team, and so maybe those guys drop a little. So I always think it's super important and interesting. And like you say, if you want to make mistakes, now's the time to do the mock draft. Make the mistake. Take that guy and go, oh, I can get all these other guys at that same time as him. Maybe I wait and try to get him a round or two later. So I always think that's important. Let's get things started off here with the first and second round. A lot of the guys you expect to see coming off the board here in the first, obviously Connor McDavid right at the top, 1-1. I can't imagine there's going to be any league where he's not the 1-1 in a lot of leagues, but him, McKinnon, 1-2, Matthews, the 1-3. Kucherov, the 1-4, Draisaitl, the 1-5, Pastrnak, 1-6, Retinen, 1-7, Kaprizov, 1-8, Hellebuck, 1-9, Hughes, 1-10, Makar, 1-11, and JT Miller, 1-12. Toast, anything jump out to you in that first round?
Yeah, a few things here, and I want to talk just briefly about league settings and also a plan based on your format before we get into the specific draft. So I think it's super important to talk about that. And I first want to talk about the format of your league based on positions. So our home league, we just run just forwards. Everybody's a forward or a defenseman or a goalie. But most leagues don't do that. Most leagues actually have by position. You have left wing, center, and right wing. You have defenseman and goalie, and then you have players who are multi-eligible. So they may be center, left wing, right wing, like JT Miller, or they may be left wing center, like Leon Draisaitl. So knowing that will skew the way you're going to mock and the way you're actually going to perform in your live draft. So in saying that, right now, I will say in most formats, if you're going to have a position, right wing is scarce. Okay, so it's going to go dry a lot quicker than the other positions. Center's super deep. Left wings are a little bit deeper than right wings. Right wings are pretty thin from that top tier, and the drop off is more drastic. And defensemen and goalies a whole different ball of wax. We'll get to that. So in saying that, I just want to mention that here. If you look at the first two rounds anyway, in this draft, there was a bunch of right wing eligible players that actually went, but we'll talk about that here in a second. The first player I want to talk about is Leon Draisaitl. And I will tell you, in some mocks I've been doing, especially dynasty mocks, and that's really comes into dynasty mocks, is Draisaitl has actually been falling. He's been falling a little bit in the mocks for dynasty. You wonder why, because honestly, let's recap Draisaitl. His point totals through the 18-19 season, from then all the way through 23-24. I'm going to rattle them off real quick: 105, 110, then an 84-point season, and that was only in 56 games due to COVID. That's 123-point pace, 110, 128, and 106. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay, so you wonder, why is he falling so much in dynasty drafts? My only thoughts this, and again, I've heard some others say it, and I kind of agree with it as well, and it makes the most common sense. He's only signed through this next year. After that, he's a free agent. Is Edmonton going to keep him McDavid together? It truly matters if he's playing with McDavid. And he may not play on the same line with him all the time. He's traditionally on line 2 all the time. McDavid's on line 1, but you'll see them play together on the power play. They'll actually play together as well. McDavid signed through 25-26, so one more year beyond that. And Draisaitl's 28 years old. So, and he's been durable. So you wonder why he's fallen in drafts, but I do wonder in certain formats, especially keeper, especially dynasty, he might be falling specifically because of the uncertainty of his future in Edmonton.
Yeah, I always think that makes a difference in dynasty more than redraft. Redraft, I think you go in, you're like, hey, I'm obviously only thinking about this year. Now I'm not thinking about the future. And that's where you can also make adjustments. You can go with some older players in redraft higher because you know what you're going to get, and you're going with a safer guy. And that's what you have to fill out your draft. Feel out what everybody else is doing. You get guys like us who've been drafting all summer, and you start thinking young guy, because you're in that dynasty mentality. And sometimes you pass on some of these older players that are going to put up really solid points. And you're kind of going for that, hoping this young guy has a big game or a big year. And so I think you got to really look at that on how you're doing it. We used to have our keeper league. And so in our keeper league, we were always really big about coming out and on our keeper league, we were always like, hey, I want to take rookies and young guys late in case they do hit, because then I can get them as a late keeper. So in a league like that, I'm definitely thinking about taking some of those guys as a reach. Because again, if I get them late, they end up not hitting. You can drop them. You can turn around, pick somebody else up. No big deal. A lot of those guys you can go back and get later on. So all that makes a difference. I mean, you're going to see a guy like Ovechkin, he's going to go much, much higher in a redraft than he's going to go in a dynasty. And not that he doesn't still going to give you good points. It's just people want that link. They want that. They want to know they're going to get another 5, 8, 10 years out of a guy, hopefully, where you're starting to look at the guys like Ovechkin, even though he's still, putting up points. You're like, man, how many years has he got left? Is it 2? Is it 3? And so I think that's where you'll see some guys drop, as well as just like you will in fantasy football leagues with older quarterbacks and older running backs, where it's like you can kind of get good value on those guys later in your draft. If you've seen it, like, okay, everybody's going real young, maybe I go for more win now and I take some older guys that can give me points right away, but maybe I'm going to have to rebuild a little earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more with that, JT. And I'll tell you, I mean, I think getting back to Draisaitl, I really think Draisaitl went in the right spot here. And the majority of mocks I've been doing, he's been after Pastrnak, he's been after Rantanen. And honestly, if you look at Rantanen and Pastrnak, they're both the same age, very, very close to the same age as Draisaitl. And if you're looking at contracts specifically, Pastrnak is in really year 2 of an 8-year deal at $11.25 million AAV again. So if you're in a cap league as well, that's going to matter. That's going to matter as well. There's so many different ways you could actually go based on format. And I am a little concerned with Pastrnak long term, mainly because I don't really care a great deal for the minor league system of the Boston Bruins. And also Marchand's getting a little bit older. The supporting cast isn't what it actually used to be. And will that actually affect his point total, which has been really, really good over the last 3 years? He's paced well over 100 points 3 years in a row. And Rantanen's on the last year of his contract at 9.25 AAV. If you want to know about Rantanen, see Draisaitl. again, uncertainty. Is he going to be able to stay in Colorado? I would imagine he's not going anywhere. But again, 9.25 million AAV. He's looking to get one more really, really big contract at the 8-year deal. He'll get it. I would imagine he's going to make over $10 million a season. Will Colorado be in a position to give that to him? Great supporting cast right now, again, with the likes of McKinnon and McCarr, and Landeskog, who's actually coming back this year as well. But Draisaitl 2 at 5, I don't think so. I really, really like him at 5. I like him ahead of those two guys.
Yeah, I know you were bringing up, right wing, a little scarce. Do you maybe overdraft them a tad? We saw a few guys go. I'll pull the draft board back up for everybody that's watching on YouTube or on X. If you're not and you're listening to this back on a podcast, we'll try to go back and keep kind of telling you where these guys went to kind of give you a reminder. But really, you saw, Pasa, you had Kucherov at 1-4, Pasa at 1-6 as a right winger. And then right at the end of the first, beginning of the second, you started seeing a lot of guys go. Right, and you said JT Miller obviously can play 3 spots. Tkachuk going at 2-2. Nylander, who's right wing, left wing eligible at 2-4. And then to finish
Reinhart
off that round,
Yep.
Reinhart at 2-12. So a few guys there. Kind of talk a little bit about, the right wings here. And do you think it's, especially in a redraft league, if you're going with those positions, do you maybe overdraft the right wing a little bit earlier to try to get an advantage?
Yeah, in my opinion, again, every format's different, but you need to get ahead of that right wing position in most formats. And I'll tell you where I believe the drop off, and we're going to do tiers. Again, we're going to do tiers here soon, and we'll do forward tiers. But that drop off is at Mitch Marner at 3-7. That's my thought. So basically, once you hit Mitch Marner, you end up going over to Clayton Keller, and then actually the likes of Boldy. Again, all really, really good players. Boldy would be great in a dynasty format as well. But there's a drop off. There's a drop off those right wings, and then it drops off again when you actually get past the Konechny and the Marchessaults there and actually get over to Vetrano and elsewhere. But you just don't have that drop off with the centers and left wings like you had the right wings. So I would have actually went. Well, this is my draft. I guess is my draft board. I went JT Miller at 112. That's my slot there, and I just basically said I need a right wing. And at this point, since I'm actually drafting at 12, which is a super tough spot to draft because you're waiting 24 picks at a time, that I might as well go and get a tri-eligible player that really does a little bit of everything, and then come back with Artemi Panarin, who you'll see has been dropping a lot in drafts as well. We could talk about that either now or in a subsequent show on why people are not high on Artemi Panarin repeating what he did last year.
Yeah, Aaron, what do you think kind of about do you have a strategy here on right wing guys? What are you thinking in these in this like second, third round?
Yeah. Yes, I do, and that's where I kind of hit my pitfall with the Kyrou pick, which again I know we'll kind of touch on the league that the 3 of us are in the mock. Maybe a little overvalue the right wing, but again, I would agree with every point, the scarcity of the position, and what I absolutely love about the experience here with Fantrax is the color coding, so you can see, hey, this guy, he's center left wing, he's right wing, so you can, even if you just glance at the board, you can see, okay, well, here goes the right wings, that's kind of my, I've got to at least keep my finger on the pulse there. But yeah, again, and you go back to your format, your format. If this is a redraft, I think Draisaitl's 5 all day. If this is a dynasty, even better yet, a dynasty salary. And again, everybody's kind of got their strategies. I've got a spreadsheet that kind of tells you how much are you paying in dollars per fantasy point. So Draisaitl, he's at about 82 cents with his current contract at 8.5 million. He's getting he's pulling about 82 cents a fantasy point. The kind of going rate I use is McDavid. He's about 66 cents per point. So he's making 12.5 million. If Draisaitl jumps to 12.5, which they're saying 12.5, 13 million, whether or not he stays with the Oilers, that's what they're saying, he drops to about 50 cents a point. So if I'm drafting this mock and it's a it's a dynasty or a dynasty salary league, no way am I taking Drysdale. I'm jumping on the bandwagon, and he's going later. In this draft, I think he went exactly where he should have. Some of the second and third round, just a couple of notables. Yeah, with um, who do we have just at a quick glance? We've got probably my favorite conversation is the Stamkos, the Stammer. Is what's he going to do in Nashville? He's not on a line with Point and Kucherov, and he doesn't have those guys. He's probably going to see all the power play time in the world, but what's gonna happen to him now? Looking at this, where he went in this draft at 3-2, so round 3, second pick, might seem a little high. Might seem a little high just because Nashville's, like, their defense first mentality. Yossi, Saros. Let's win some 3-2 games. Let's grind out the 2-1 games. One of the more prolific scorers of our current generation, Stamkos, is going there. So was he picked a little too high? So that kind of jumps out at me right off the bat. And then another. And I think Toast. I think you said you were on that end pick. I love the Jesper Bratt pick. The Devils, the New Look Devils. They again had an atrocious start to the year, but ended the year on a high note. Got some youth with the Hughes brothers. They've got, so I think that could be, if I were to make a bold prediction, I might even say, take Bratt there instead of Stammer. Maybe wait on Stammer, maybe skip over him. So, any thoughts on that? What do you think? Stamkos or way off on what he's going to do, what his production is going to be?
No, I don't think you're way off at all, Aaron. Hey, would it surprise me if he continues his production? That he actually equal it? He did in Tampa Bay. No, it wouldn't, because the fact that he has Forsberg and Marchessault on the line with him as well. But it's new scenery. It's going to make it a little bit difficult. It's a little bit of an unknown there. I think for me at 3-2, Stamkos is really, really early. Obviously, I would have taken Hyman in front of him. I would have taken Robertson. I would have taken Mitch Marner as well. And maybe even the guy who slid in and took his place, Jake Gensel. I may have taken him before, but that was a little bit of a reach in my opinion as well. And speaking of Forsberg, I won't go into detail about that, but you see him at 2.8. Man, Forsberg is a guy who can actually he can win for you in any format. He does. It does a lot. Obviously, we know he shoots the crap out of the puck. Last year, he had some monster numbers as well. And really, this will be the first year where you can actually look at that line and be like, wow, man, like look at the line they actually have here. And if you look at his stats from last year, 48 goals, 46 assists, 94 points in 82 games, but 347 shots. Who does he think he is, Brady Tkachuk? So, I mean, this guy, I'm high on Philip Forsberg, which I guess I should be high on Stamkos, but you just don't know. You just don't know. So, yeah, good call out, Aaron. I definitely think the Stamkos pick was a little bit of a reach there.
The one guy I felt like we were bringing up all season last year was Sam Reinhart. We're like, can he keep it up? Can he just keep this roll? And we're just like, man, maybe it's time to sell high. Maybe it's time to sell high. And he just kept rolling all year. He went at the end of the second round here. Do you believe in Sam Reinhart? Is this the new real Sam Reinhart? Is he going to do what he did last year all the time? Or are you guys going to let somebody else buy high on him?
I think, so given the rules of this, I'm getting the extra power play point. I go after, again, I'll you weigh everything out, but he's got the right wing eligibility and he's a power play merchant. He lived on those power. They just fed him that puck. 27 power play goals last year of his
Unbelievable.
4. So in this format, yes. In a dynasty format, he's a fraud. I'm thinking a 4th rounder. I'm passing on him. I mean, I let walk the walk, talk the talk, but I'm not, hey, same with Zach Hyman. They added Skinner and they added Arvidsson. The Edmonton Oilers. say, dude put up 50 plus goals. These are guys that is it a flash in the pan or not? I'm a little bit more hesitant on that in my dynasty leagues, but the format that we've got where you're tacking on the extra power play points, I'm taking Reinhardt probably before that pick. I love what he did. Great guy. He's got a cup now. He's done it all. And maybe there's a hangover. You win your cup, you put in 54, 55, whatever he ended up with. Yeah, might take the next season off. He's got his contract. So I don't know. That's just I put a little more thought into it when.
And Aaron, he took that contract, and honestly, he took much less to stay there in Florida. And smart by him, $8.625 million to stay with the likes of Barkov and actually stay with the likes on power play one with Kachuk as well. They went to 2 cups in a row. They actually won one. But I'm with you, Aaron. The problem for me is a 24.5% shooting percentage that led the entire NHL last year. 27 power play goals. He's a career 15.6 shooter now. I'm not going to hold that against him because he played with Buffalo for a long time, right? Yeah. But with Florida, he has been 19%, so that's closer to the 20 as well. But odds are you expect a dip. His previous high in goals was 33 in a year. He went 57. So his assists are kind of where they need to be on average. My guess, if I had to put a number on this year, he's going to end up with like 44 and 40 for 84 points and 82 game pace. And that's still a really, really good player. And especially if, like Aaron said, if you're looking at positional specific right wing, I love where he's actually taken.
Yeah, let's take a look. That was we had our first and second round there. Let's move in kind of the third, fourth round here, see what we like as we start to see a few more goalies go in this format, and we started seeing quite a few defensemen mid second to early third. Toast, we always talk about it. I always seem to be in our home league the first guy on defenseman. And some years it's worked out for me, and some years it has not. We look at it, and I have like 3 of the top 7 defensemen in the entire league, and my team's in like second to last place. So getting the defensive points can be super important, but you can't do it by losing out on a ton of offensive points. So let's Aaron, let's take a look at the strategy here. When you're thinking third round, fourth round here in this format, we saw Hedman go 3-1, Stamkos 3-2, Hyman 3-3, Robertson went 3-4, Point at 3-5, Fox, another defenseman at 3-6, Marner went at 3-7, Stützle at 3-8, Keller at 3-9, Gunsel at 310, Barkov 311, and then Aho 312. And then we came back, like you said earlier, with Brad at 4-1, Eichel 4-2, then 2 more defensemen, Dougie Hamilton at 4-3, then Dobson at 4-4, Boldy 4-5, Ovechkin there at 4-6. Then we got into goalies, Sheskirkin 4-7, Kempe 4-8, 4-9 with Saros, 4-10, my guy Kyle Connor, 4-11, Kreider, and then 4-12, Svechnikov. So kind of started seeing a few more defensemen goalies going there, but we also saw quite a few left wing, right wing eligible guys, but then people also went right back in to those left wingers.
Yeah, and I as far as defenseman strategy, I try to keep it as simple as I can. To be honest, because you can get lost, you can go down the rabbit hole, and I've watched you do it. Like you said, you completely own up to it. You take those defensemen and you'll stack them if you got the corner picks. I'm taking 2 defensemen, so outside of the top tier, and I know we'll get into tier in some of the other shows as Toast had shared. It's part of the agenda we've got coming up, which I'm really looking forward to. But outside of the tier 1 defenseman, I'd rather not participate. Right now, I would say there's possibly 4. I go Makar. He plays like a forward. He scores like a forward. He's amazing. He's if not for McDavid, this would be the guy that everybody tunes in to watch, and he plays on the blue line. You've got Quinn Hughes, captain of the team, a little water bug out there, dances around. Nobody can catch him. Awesome fun to watch. Roman Josi, he does it all. He plays defense, and he never takes a day off. I don't know how he does it. Right on the cusp, Evan Bouchard. Bushbaum was just something. Again, he's going to kind of fall into that Reinhardt category. As can he do it again? Yeah, maybe. I think Edmonton's all in this year, so I'm high on the Edmonton guys. But with Bouchard, he's on the cusp of that. He's going to get you forward numbers. Outside of that, I'm not breaking the seal on defensemen. If I miss out on one of those four guys, I'm not going to break the seal. I'd say the same approach with goalies. Now the thing again, I'll remind the listeners the format. You're losing a point per goal here, so you are that's not great. So how am I tier or how am I looking at goalies? I'm looking at team defense. You know, who's Boston Bruins don't let many. You know, I talked about it before. Nashville with Yossi. Those guys don't let in a whole lot of goals. They're good goalies and they have good team defense. So I'm primarily looking at that. And if I can get those picks out of the way, so I'm a little opposite on goalies. If I can stack goalies, especially guys that aren't like splitting minutes, I'll pop them. Maybe fourth round's a little early, but if the seal's broken and they're going, and I can't really, I've at least got one right wing at that point. Yeah, I can go with goalies in that 3-4. Probably towards the end of 4 though. If I've got one of those 4, 9 and up picks, I'm close to the end. I'm close to the curve around. I'm gonna probably stack a couple of goalies, just get it out of the way, and then I'm not gonna think about that position the rest of the draft. I'm just gonna.
Toast, I'm going to ask you about your strategy. I kind of feel like what Aaron just said. I look at defensemen like tight ends in a tight end premium football league. I want like the top 4 guys, or I'm just kicking it down the can down the road. I'm just going to take somebody middle of the road late. I'm going to take a high upside guy. If I don't get a top end guy, I'm going that direction. And then when it comes to goalies, same thing. If I can bunch them right together, take like 2 of the guys and not think about it the rest of the draft, I'm down with that. But also, please look at your goalie scoring. It's almost the most important because there's leagues we've been in where the goalies are literally winning you weeks. Like the goalies by themselves. If you have a guy on a good team, it makes or break your week. If you don't have a guy that's on a team that wins, it totally screws you. Like you are almost better off not playing anyone. So really look at that because I always look at my goalie scoring before any drafts and I look at what it has scored the year before. And I say, okay, where were these guys in the mix? Were they QBs in your QB scoring league where the top 12 scores in the league were all goalies because the goalie scoring is insane? And if they weren't top 12, they were losing you crap loads of points. Like those are where I want to look at that. If it's more of an in between, which we try to do in our home leagues to make it very relevant to where you want to play guys that get a lot of saves, then I'll wait a little bit longer. But man, we've been in those leagues where I'm like, I have to have a goalie on a top 4 team or we're in trouble. And then I definitely will draft earlier on that. Kind of what do you think about that? As we got a comment here from our guy, Jorge, the new boss. Jorge Edwards, what's good, gentlemen? Thanks for tuning in, Jorge, the head guy here at Fantasy and Frames. Appreciate you checking out the show. So it's kind of what you're thinking on defensive and goalies, just in general. Obviously, league specific makes a difference, but kind of I have a feeling I know what your strategy is, but tell the people what you usually do when it comes to goalies and defense.
Yeah, in years past, I've actually just said, just who cares about the defense spot, and actually who cares about the goalie spot. But you guys have only seen that in home leagues, and we play a bangers league where defensemen can the pool is much deeper because we put a premium on hits and blocks. So it actually averages it out where basically you can just get guys later on. But in this format here, I agree with Aaron. If I'm not getting, and we'll talk about tiers, I can't wait to start talking about tiers here. But instead of 4, I actually have 6 in my top tier. But I include Adam Fox in that. And I probably actually include Quinn Hughes in that as well. Aaron, I don't know, you may have actually included Hughes.
Yeah.
But after that, you have the uncertainty of sharing time on power play. You have that uncertainty of team not putting the puck in the back of the net. And you have that uncertainty of health. And those guys there alone have never showed an uncertainty in any of those at all. And they're almost a slam dunk pick. And that's, again, in this type of format. So, and if I can't get one of those, I'm waiting a long time on defense, and I'm actually just stacking up on skaters and guys that put the puck in the back of the net, and I'm winning. So you'll see here as well what's my strategy on goalie. I'm the team on the far right. you can see I took my first 2 goalies at 7-12 and 8-1. I normally don't do something like that. Why did I end up doing that? Mainly because Mackenzie Weegar and Rupe Hintz were my guys I was targeting, especially Weegar to get that second defenseman because I felt like he was in another tier on his own. Once that didn't happen, why did I end up targeting Alexander Georgiev and also Andrei Vasilevsky? Because they play on teams who win. It's simple. Don't overcomplicate it. They're volume starters. They get the majority of starts to their team, and their teams do nothing but win. So if you're going to, I was thrilled to get those 2 guys. I didn't want to take them that early, but I figured, you know what? I'm going to go out there, and these are steals this late in this draft here if I'm forced to go get 2 goalies. Plus, I didn't like the pool of players that I was actually needing because at that point, my roster was looking banging good, man. So I'm willing to actually wait on the goalies as well. And JT hit it on the head. The format has everything to do with goalies. If goalies get you wins, there's literally 10 teams in the league that do nothing but win year in and year out. Get one of those. They're volume starters. If you miss on those, you better just wait a long time. So because you're going to be in a share format at that point, and there's no sense in wasting a pick to start loading up on skaters, because here's why you do that. During the season, everybody's got injuries. Somebody's going to have a surplus of goalies, and somebody's going to have injuries that has a surplus of goalies. They're going to need a skater. You make a trade. Make a trade. Don't jeopardize your draft trying to pick positions when it doesn't make any sense. Just go get the best player at some point, knowing you can make a trade down the road.
Couple guys I want to talk about just in this grouping. We talked about Stamkos a little bit. Aaron talked about Bratt for the Devils. Maybe possibly this could be the breakout year. Team got off to a slow start, but man, they looked better at the end of the year. Toast, I know you're a big Stützle guy. He was frustrating you last year in one of our dynasty leagues that we had him in. You said he was untouchable. I couldn't believe mid-year you were like, I might trade him. I'm like, what? I was like, I couldn't believe it because I was like, oh man, you must be frustrated when you're talking about getting rid of him because you were all about him. So let's talk a little bit about Stützle. You talk about him there, and then I want Aaron's take on Ovechkin, the pursuit for Gretzky. We talked about it a bunch last year. I know we were on a bunch of bets taking overs on Ovechkin, thinking that he was just going to be going. He had a slow start to the year that absolutely was just murdering us for a while, betting wise, until he finally picked it up. But first off, Toast, tell me where you're at on the Stützle, and then we'll go to Aaron talking about Ovechkin and his pursuit of Gretzky for the most goals of all time.
Well, JT, you must have got me on a bad mood that day because I'll still stick to my guns that in most formats, Tim Stützle is untouchable. I mean, the guy's only 21 years old at this point. Last year, why was I frustrated? 18 goals, 52 assists for 70 points. All right, 70 points in 75 games, great. 18 goals is no good at all. But why was it only 18 goals? He had time on ice at 21:07. That was up 2 minutes before. This guy's a stud. You know why? Found out he played hurt all year long. It was finally revealed he was not even close to 100% all year long. When you're actually playing that banged up at that age, you're 22 years old, you're scoring 70 points in 75 games, and you scored 90 points in 78 games a year before at your age, you're 21. This guy is untouchable. And dynasty drafts, he's up there. He's up there. We're all going to be tipping our hand here for our home league and giving out everybody like what we actually want to do. But it's no secret. I'm in love with this guy. I'd marry him.
The problem was we talked about the Senators. Like we thought that was going to be an offensive team. We didn't know how good they'd be overall, but we thought they'd put up points. And man, they were bad all around last year for most of the
year. No goalie, no goalie at all. The coaching staff was an absolute joke. And Ottawa should be much better with the likes of Stützle, with Brady Tkachuk, with Batherson, with Shane Pinto, Sanderson, and Shabbat. It goes on down the list. They got so much talent on that team. There is no reason why they should be as bad as they've been. They're too good. They've got way too much talent. They need a coaching staff that knows how to get out of their own way and actually manage this talent around them. And they need a little bit of goaltending here. And I think that did they get Linus Ullmark? I want to say they actually went out and got Ullmark. Yep. And so, hey, a step in the right direction. Now, Allmark was actually chased out of town by Swayman. Now that's not, anything. Swayman's a heck of a player, but nevertheless, Bruins actually didn't want to keep him at this point, coming off of 2 years ago, Vezina Trophy winner. So, but no. Don't give up on Stützle. He's a mainstay, and in Dynasty, he's an absolute stud. He was somebody you build a team around.
Yeah, we got a comment from our buddy John McGlynn. So glad you guys started this podcast. Thank you, John, for stepping in. John jumped into our home league last year, one of the new guys to the mix, but he was awesome. A great addition to the league. And he's all kinds of fired up for a Dynasty Hockey League. Last year, he jumped in the Keeper League. This is going to be his first Dynasty Hockey League. I'm just making John crazy. I got him into an IDP league. Now he's in Hockey Dynasty. We're getting him all over the board. So John, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being in the league. Aaron, give me we're about 15 minutes to go here in the show. Give me your thoughts on Ovechkin. What you think coming into this season here with him in the Capitals?
Well, with him, and you're kind of, I'm reading more and picking up more is that hurting Washington? Is this pursuit of this record hurting Washington? No, I guess I could, from a fantasy standpoint. So as we're concerned, yeah, I think so. I think I got to take a look at Washington, look at some minutes. He's taken some minutes from a young team. They made some moves this year that are in the right direction. They made the playoffs. They got bounced. I mean, they got absolutely destroyed, but they got a great coach, got a great system. Name escapes me now. Charles Lindgren in net, solid core on the defense. Maybe some, but all this to say, here's what I think what you do with Ovechkin, and this is just you're not going to miss a beat. You give him the Brett Hull treatment. Brett Hull in his when he won the cup in Dallas, but towards the twilight of his career, the dude just stood on the blue line. He waited for the breakout. He was on the blue line, and then he'd go find his spot. That's what you do with Ovechkin. Now, Ovechkin, he's kind of gotten to that. To be clear, though, this guy, the only reason you see him slow down is because he played on both ends of the ice. Incredible back checker. He'd go back and he'd scoop the puck up. He was a possession guy. He'd mow through people. Physical hitting. He absolutely would hit people. The guy's, I don't know what his shoulder, what kind of suit coat he wears, but he's got to be like a 50 wide. He is a beast of a man, and he's not in the best shape. He'll be the first, he's eating cheeseburgers in the locker room. So you give him the Brett Hull treatment. That would be just, if I see that from Washington, I don't think it's going to hurt him at all. It's not going to slow him down. For Washington as an organization, you're putting butts in seats. Everybody wants to be there when he gets it. Let's track this, let's track that. But yeah, last year's beginning to that season was atrocious. He turned it on. He found his other level. Maybe that's just what we're going to expect. Is he's not going to turn it on until the end. But I don't think it hurts Washington. I think you fit him into the system. I think you got the right guy at the head coach making the decision there. So no, I think they've again, the signings that they've had this year, they're moving in the right direction. I think they'll be fine, and it'll be a win for everybody to watch them get that record.
Yeah, let's jump back into the draft board. Take a look at as we talked about Ovechkin, we were just discussing him. He went 4-6 in this draft. Let's take a look at the 5th and 6th round. Barzal 5-1, Matheson 5-2, Morrissey 5-3, Heiskanen 5-4, Demko 5-5, Bobrovsky 5-6, Connor Bedard 5-7, 5-8, Trocheck 5-9, Johnston 5'10", Larkin 5'11", Tage Thompson 5'12", Suzuki, and then Riley at 6'1", Verhaeghe at 6'2", Caulfield at 6'3", Nugent Hopkins at 6'4", Sergachev at 6'5", Meyer at 6'6", Carlson 6'7", Seider at 6'8", Zibanejad at 6'9", Viola at 6'10", Skinner 6'11", and Ottinger 6'12", as we got two goalies to kind of finish it up here. I thought this was a really interesting range. When we've been in a couple mock drafts, I've kind of jumped around on who I've taken here. As you see the goalies start coming off the board, you're starting to get to that like, ooh, do I reach on a defenseman here, or do I go with the highest side offensive guy that comes up? I really thought it was an interesting stretch where it went Bedard, Trocheck, Johnston, Larkin, Thompson, Suzuki. I thought that was a really interesting stretch because I almost thought any of those guys could be interchanged there and could go earlier. Obviously, Connor Bedard in a dynasty, probably going way earlier than a 5-7 as he is in a redraft. Larkin had one of his best years. Johnston, huge surprise there for Dallas. Young guy, was amazing last year. Tage Thompson, a little bit of a down year for Thompson, as the Sabres were just a little bit, they just weren't what we thought they were going to be. But he's a guy that has shown that he can actually show up and score at will. What do you guys think there? I'm loving Thompson there. I'm liking Larkin there in a redraft. Bedard, is that too early for Bedard in a redraft? I know Toast is the consummate Bedard fan and traded up last year in our keeper league just to make sure he got him with the 1-1 pick in our keeper league. So is 5-7? Does that feel like that's right, or does that feel a little early? Kind of what are you thinking on Bedard there, Toast?
I think it's right where it should be, and here's the reason why. We all know how talented Connor Bedard is. I can be the homer right here as a Chicago Blackhawk fan and own it. It doesn't really matter. So here's the reason why. The Blackhawks last year, with their top six and all the injuries they had, and the interchanging of lineups, that was one of the worst teams that the Blackhawks have ever put on the ice. And that's saying something, considering in the early 2000s, it was just dog crap. It was just awful. You never seen so bad. It was an absolute joke. This team was no good. They were actually no good at all. They played as a team unbelievably well last year. It just shows the lack of talent. Saying that, he had 61 points in 68 games as an 18-year-old. No, it's not too early for him, because they went out and got Teuvo Teravainen. If you end up getting a healthy haul this year, they end up getting Tyler Bertuzzi as well. You have some competent guys in that top six now to actually help supplement him, where he doesn't actually have to go out there knowing he's not going to be able to shoot the puck, knowing he's actually not going to get the puck, and that actually adds up. And given all of that, what happened last year as an 18-year-old, he still gets 61 points in 68 games. This guy is going to be – there's a reason why they call certain players a generational player. He's a generational player. He'll be over a point per game this year. And if you're lucky enough to get him where you can keep him, you've won at that point. So I think 5-7 right there. Again, it depends on your team and how you actually like it. And with that team, I like their team with Rantanen, Bouchard, Marner, Ovechkin, and Bedard. Give me that team. That team's great.
Yeah, I'd agree. You got shooters, you got your right wing with Marner. He's going to rack up the assists. Ovi and Bedard are shooting all the time. They're kind of playing again, the term, the power play merchants. So yeah. I think in this one, nobody wants to, whether you're doing it, well, if you're doing a dynasty league, obviously Bedsy's going to go a little higher than this, I think, just based on everything you just said, plus the rebuild. I mean, you never want to be there on the year that he takes off. So I think the fifth, sixth round, that seems right for a redraft, because I don't want to be the guy that passed on him on his breakout year. Could be this year. Like you said, all the health concerns, the lack of talent. Do we have a 1-1, a 1A line? No, it's not. It can't keep up with McKinnon or McDavid or those types of high powered, high octane lines, but it's going to be better than it was last year. So yeah, I think I like Bedsy there.
I got a couple more questions for you guys. Me, as obviously the Detroit Red Wings homer, Larkin just really had a breakout year last year. Finally got the talent around him to really show what he could do. And man, when he got hurt, the Red Wings fell apart. Tell me who you would take. Who would you rather have here in a redraft? Johnston at 5'9", Larkin at 5'10", or Tage Thompson at 5'11". I'll start with you, Toast, and then I'll go Aaron. We'll just say Bedard is the first call. You taking him for sure. Out of those three guys, who would be your guys' pick? Would you go with Larkin? Would you go Johnson? Would you go Thompson?
Larkin would be number one for me, given track record, given the fact that he's actually done it before. He'll have a full season. Whether or not he plays on his line or not is yet to be seen, but he'll have a full season with Kane. He'll actually have DeBrincat, and he'll also have Raymond as well. That's four really, really good players, man. They'll have a lot of offense there up in our top six as well. And again, he's done it. And we saw how valuable it was, like you said, when he got hurt, that they really fell off. So it's an easy Larkin for me. After that, if you're wanting to shoot for the moon, an absolute shoot for the moon, you're going with Tage Thompson because you've seen what he can actually do given a healthy season and given help around him. Last year, man, everybody was on the Buffalo bandwagon, me included, in the beginning of the year. I'm like, man, they got a lot of talent. They're going to be really, really good. And just never did transpire, never came about. But Tage Thompson's been there. He's actually done that before. He had a monster year 2 years ago. Huge young guy as well. But Wyatt Johnston is the guy that really is going to slide in that Joe Pavelski spot. So instead of being Pavelski, Hintz, and Robertson, now it's Johnston, hopefully, Hintz and Robertson. If he can actually secure himself on that top line, that top power play, and play with the likes of them, then what an unbelievable pick that would be, and especially in a dynasty league. He's 20. So you can't go wrong with any of them, but it's very, very close for me. Probably Larkin, then upside Tage Thompson, and then Wyatt Johnston. I'd be happy to have any of them. What
about you, Aaron?
I'm complete opposite. I'm going Wyatt Johnston. I'm all in on this guy. This guy was the Conn Smythe winner before Dallas exited the playoffs. He was putting up points left and right. He did the same thing in the playoff run the year before. Exactly what I was thinking. He's now no Pavelski. Pavelski's your leader. He's your mentor. He did a million things. The guy should be a first round ballot or first ballot Hall of Famer. Johnston's right there. He's ready. It's his time. He's breaking out this year. I'm taking Johnston all day long. Completely agree with you about Detroit collapsing when Larkin went down. What that tells me is Larkin's going to take on a Jonathan Toews role. Toews could have scored 40 goals anytime he wanted. He was a great goal scorer. Some of his earlier stuff where he's all over the ice, he had to turn into that two-way player because it needed a forward to shut down the other one line. Dylan Larkin can do it all because he's a great hockey player. He's not but he can be a prolific scorer like we saw last year or the year before. I love him. I think he's the absolute center of your team, and he proved it when Detroit kind of crumbled without him. For even if it was 2 weeks, they were like they couldn't win a game. They got couldn't win a game without the guy. That said, now Tage Thompson, here comes our wild card. We've seen a great season. We've seen a stinker of a season. Which one is real? Somewhere in the middle. So I'd go Johnston, kind of the order of the draft there, the Johnston, Larkin, Thompson. I'm going Thompson on the end because it's just, what is this? And Buffalo stinks. What have they? I know some adjustments have been made, and maybe they'll get that defense figured out. I think they got another goalie, whatever. I'm Buffalo gives me a headache when I think about him. So I hold that against Thompson. He's got all the talent in the world. He's 6'6", 6'7". The dude's a giant, but that's also a pretty big target too. You're going to get hit. You're going to take hits. The puck's going to hit you. I'll go Wyatt Johnston all day. And he's probably a fourth rounder, to be honest. He's
So hey, we're looking at here final face off here. Our last couple minutes of the show. Anybody else on that list that you guys want to talk about that kind of jumped out at you that you saw on the draft list? I'll pull it up real quick again for anybody that kind of wants to take a look at it. Anybody that pops out at you there, maybe in the 6th, 7th, 8th round that you either really love or really hate a pick there, or a guy you're kind of looking for you thought maybe could have gone earlier?
I'll say due out of frustration. We'll stick in that fifth round there in my queue, and it's always easy to say after the fact, JT. But I had Wyatt Johnston, Larkin, and Thompson, and then Suzuki. And wouldn't you actually know, I had Suzuki. And again, I like Suzuki, but the fact of the matter is, Suzuki plays for Montreal. And Montreal's it's a hard team to watch. I do think they got with Caulfield and also with Kirby Dach on the line. Once Slafkovsky actually came on, and last year as well. I think they got a lot of young talent. They're going to be pretty darn good. But those three were just heads and shoulders for me above Nick Suzuki. And I actually got stuck with Nick Suzuki. But again, Suzuki's not too bad there. So that was a big churn for me in this draft.
Anything for you, Aaron?
Yeah. The other standout, another guy I'm big on is Matt Boldy. He's got the eligibility there for the wingers, so you can get him. You're going to get a lot of starts out of him. Um, he's jumping out as what I see could be the steal of the draft. He went fourth, so he's fourth round, but I could see him being a lock, third round type guy moving forward.
We got a comment here from our friend Mike. I was trying to read through here. So he says, "Is Enterprise still going to be NHL's main sponsor?" So is everybody okay with that? We've had inside joke. We have had a lot of friends work for Enterprise over the years. None of them were very happy working there over the years. So always an interesting thing for Mike there. We appreciate you tuning in, Mike. No, Enterprise should not be the main sponsor. We're
They're the
wrapping
blue
things
sponsor,
up
so
here.
there you go.
There you go. Exactly. So we're wrapping things up here for our inaugural episode here on Fantasy and Frames. We're super pumped to bring Around the Ice to this YouTube channel and the website and everything else. So make sure you guys check them out, like and subscribe. Check us all out on Twitter or the X at JT Orange, at Toast Clark, and at Titch4141. Like you said, we'll have all kinds of action coming to you for the rest of the year. Every Tuesday night should be 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. Check us out here on Fantasy and Frames. Any last words from either one of you guys before we close this thing out?
Can't wait for next week. Let's go ahead and do some more fantasy hockey. Like you said, JT, we'll get into a gambling segment there as well, and we're going to keep this train going. I sort of train in the background, JT. We're going to keep it going all the way to opening night on October 8th.
Yeah, can't wait to win money. Can't wait to start this journey. Let's kick it off. Let's get some wins. Let's get some wins and playoff house money rest of the year. We'll come out.
I like where your head's at there, Aaron. So with that, we'll say may all your bets hit and the trading never quit. We'll check you out next time here on Around the Ice on Fantasy and Frames. Have a good one, guys.